Hey folks, so today's a really exciting day. We just received shipment of this wood cook stove, and so I've wanted to put a wood cook stove in my house for a long time for a lot of reasons. Number one, this is going to provide our primary space heat. We're trying to heat with as little propane and carbon-based fuels as possible. Carbon, I guess wood is carbon, but technically that's carbon neutral, I guess. And also our property produces copious amounts of wood, so it's a free fuel for us. This specific unit though is pretty special, and I spent a long time doing research trying to look for different types of stoves that would kind of meet all of our objectives. So number one, the stove had to put out the right amount of heat into the house such that when we finally replaced these windows and the wall, that this will be the primary heat source for our house. Right now our house is very inefficient, it's super leaky, these windows are absolute garbage, and so the heat loss in our house at minus 30, minus 35 Celsius is roughly between 85 and 110,000 BTUs an hour, so really high for such a small building. And so we have plans to retrofit the house, and so I needed to buy a stove that would improve thermal comfort in the short term, and kind of improve the overall heat distribution in the house while it's really inefficient, but that after we did the renovation, this would be our primary heat supply. Now the other thing, given that we live so far north, we're trying to also produce all of our own electricity, and so we put up a 6 kilowatt solar array this summer, which isn't enough for our farm. Especially not in the wintertime when we have cloudy days like today, and we're really not collecting much electricity. Now in the wintertime, our primary electrical use on this property is going to be baking and cooking, and we do a lot of it here because we basically eat everything from scratch. We don't heat stuff up, generally not in a microwave or things like that. Pretty much everything gets made from scratch here. And so this wood cook stove not only provides us with space heat, but we're going to be able to do all of our cooking on the surface here, and we're going to be able to do all of our baking in this oven. And so while the house is being heated, we're also going to be able to prepare all of our food. Now the last thing that I spent a long time trying to find a stove that would do this is to heat our hot water. And so I'm not quite ready to put this guy in, but this is a thermal coil, and it's designed specifically for this stove. It'll put out about 2 kilowatts of energy, or roughly 7,000 BTUs an hour. And I will drill a hole in this stove at some point this year when I'm ready, probably in the summertime. That's when we're going to do a lot of the renovations up top. And this coil will sit right over top of the firebox, and we'll thermosiphon hot water up to the top. So there'll be no pumps on here. Hot water or cold water, the cooler water will cascade downwards into this inlet pipe, which will, because cold water is heavier than warm water, it'll get heated up by the fire and then sent back up to the domestic hot water tank up top, all without a pump. So if the power goes out, we will have the ability to cook, heat, and supply our hot water requirements in the house. Now the next thing you're going to ask is, well, what about the well pump? Eventually we will have a backup battery on the farm, so that when the power in the area goes out, our property will island, meaning that we'll have the right switch gear that'll disconnect us from the grid, and we'll be able to operate a minimal number of electrical appliances on the property with electricity, the well pump being one of them. And so this little unit has multiple functions for our property, which is what I was looking for in a wood cook stove, and it kind of completes the thermal resilience piece that's really important to me. So every day we're going to stoke the fire over here. We've got a firebox on this side, and the firebox basically will provide us with the cooking heat as well as the space heat. And also kind of keep our kitchen a little nice and warmer. We've got a nice ash tin at the bottom here, so it's really easy to clean the ash out of this unit, so we can keep a fire going. And it's got a tray down here so we can store some of our baking implements. And we're really lucky with our kitchen because we've actually got a perfect location for this cook stove. So today, Kansas Ridge Mechanical is actually here and they're going to be installing it. We'll show a video of how it gets installed, where it's going to go, and once it's ready, we'll fire it up as well. This stove comes from Serbia, so it comes from Europe. It's imported into the United States by a company called Sopka Inc., and I'll put a link to them in the show notes below. And we're now actually the Canadian distributors of these stoves up here in Canada. So if you want to get one of these suckers, you can definitely get in touch with us and we can tell you a little bit about it. We're going to be doing a ton of trialing on this over the next few months after it gets in. And so I'll be able to make a bunch more content on how well the stove works and how well the oven works and how long we can keep a fire going in here. We'll get this sucker inside the house so it's positioned in the right place for the installers, and then from there we'll probably do some sort of a time lapse so you can see how the chimney goes in, and probably within 3 or 4 days we're going to fire this thing up. The reason we can't fire it up today is because we actually need to build some plate steel or cut some plate steel so that we meet code, and so we're going to actually put some fireproofing kind of around the various walls so that we can actually meet code. So anyways, that's going in today. Stay tuned and we'll see how the whole installation process goes. Okay, so this is our kitchen, and this used to have a cadenza right here, but we've taken it out, and the stove is going to get placed right here. We're going to put a duct right through, or a chimney right through the ceiling right here, so it goes straight up, and it has to go beyond the peak in order to get good draft. One of the reasons we chose this is it's a CSA stove, so it allows us to have very little clearance between the wall and the countertop. And when I'm actually, pardon the mess in the kitchen right now, everything's a disaster because we lost a lot of our storage with this. We've got to build some new storage. But now instead of cooking right here, I have the ability to do my cooking right here. It'll also make the dining room quite a bit warmer, and our kitchen typically feels pretty cold because the wood stove we use is over there, and it's tough for that heat to kind of transfer over to here. So we're going to bring the wood stove in now so that the guys can line up the chimney and start the installation process. So these lifting straps are really awesome because it puts all the weight into your legs, into your lower back. And this is a pretty heavy little unit. So ready? 1, 2.
Watch out.
Okay. So they'll position this now so that we have the right clearances. And then from there, they can project their chimney straight up through the roof. And we'll put a little time lapse on so that we can capture all the steps in the process. Okay, so the chimney's going up right now. They're just about to put the flashing on, then the chimney's gonna follow after that, and then we'll come back inside and put the double wall, non-insulated chimney down to the stove, which will mean it's almost ready for lighting. It was great. I had a great conversation with the installer yesterday, and he took me through all the different functions in the particular stove that we got. I thought I knew them all, but he actually taught me a whole bunch about my stove that I didn't know. So pretty excited about that. When we get back inside, when we light it, I'll go through all the different features and how to manage it, and how to manipulate how much heat goes into the stove versus into the oven, and yeah, it's great. I'm really excited about this stove. It's going to do a whole bunch of stuff for our house. It's going to improve the comfort inside, heat our hot water, and cook all of our food. It's just such an incredible multifunctional appliance. Okay.